Hello, everyone. Welcome on into WFRV Plus Sports Night. Cameron is there with you on this Thursday, final WFRV Plus Sports Night of the week. Hey, everyone. Good to see you. Yeah, it's interesting. Usually with these sports nights, you have a good amount to talk about. And I was juggling through my mind, which topic should I start with? Because there isn't a lot. But we'll start Packers because, of course, Packers still king here in Green Bay. And the big news being the Packers currently in their searching period for a new defensive coordinator after Jeff Hafley took the Dolphins head coaching job just 3 days ago. Kind of shocking to think about. It feels like longer. Joining former Packers VP of Player Personnel John Eric Sullivan in South Beach as a member of the Dolphins brass. Well, today, both John Eric and Jeff Hafley were formally introduced to the media and the fans. They gave their opening statements. They thanked the many in their lives, including the Packers organization. And gosh, it's a reminder of how special Green Bay is, not just as an organization, but as a place. John Eric here for 22 years in a bevy of roles, starting off as an intern and working his way up into the front office, where he was Brian Gutekunst's right-hand man. Learned from Ted Thompson, learned from the architects of this franchise, and it even moved him to tears. Just talking about how appreciative he was to land in a place that he did like Green Bay 22 years ago. That was 2003 when he got to Green Bay. A lot has changed since 2003, including the Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love move, that a whole string of quarterbacks happening while John Eric Sullivan was there, all waiting for his opportunity to be a general manager, and he gets the job in Miami. And their owner, Stephen Ross, said that, after 10 minutes of talking to the guy, you realize, okay, this is our guy. And Sullivan, again, moved to tears talking about the organization, brought up the names like Gutekunst, saying he had the biggest impact on him out of anyone in his football career. He brought up Ted Thompson, other staffers during his time in Green Bay. And then it was time for Jeff Hafley to take the podium. And you might think, okay, fairly obvious that Hafley would get the job, a little bit of bias there, knowing that Sullivan and Hafley probably built a tight bond between each other through the 2 years that Hafley was the Packers defensive coordinator. Sullivan made it clear there was no bias at all. The move was based off of professional respect for Jeff Hafley, in which is why he hired him as his first head coach hiring of his general manager or general managerial career. Noting the fact that just interviewing the other candidates, it added more of a confidence to the conviction he already felt and why he wanted to hire Jeff Hafley as the head coach. So then Hafley took the podium. And Jeff Hafley took over the room as he usually does. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make a lot of Hafley's media availabilities on Thursday, but just watching them online, this guy can move not just a room, but a community. And that's what he did here in Green Bay. Trust, belief, toughness, he said, were the core beliefs in what he wanted to instill in the organization that he would lead. Of course, it was the Packers defense here in Green Bay, and now it's Miami's team as the head man. Also said it's important for him that he wants to call plays still defensively as the head coach. And a lot was said by Hafley that didn't surprise anyone here in Green Bay, because he said the exact same things when he got to Green Bay, and the consistency of his message, it carried throughout the 2 years and even down to Miami, where he'll be the head coach. The first head coaching opportunity of his NFL career, just 3 years after he was the head coach of a college program at Boston College. Now, a couple things were said in that introductory press conference that were quite interesting. Someone in the media asked about the approach that Green Bay took with quarterbacks, right? The Okay. When one quarterback is on the decline, which in the case of Green Bay is after over a decade of success, that's when you head to the draft. That's when you start building up the tape on certain quarterbacks that can be the understudy in order to then take over as the starter. And John Eric Sullivan made it abundantly clear that he expects to draft a quarterback either every year or every other year to take in the same approach that the Green Bay Packers took. Now the question becomes for Miami, the Tua Tagovailoa situation. Quinn Ewers, the backup, remember they drafted him in this past NFL draft. Tagovailoa was benched for Ewers in the final game of the season, and both Sullivan and Hafley were rather moot about what they ultimately want to do at that position, knowing they haven't even met with Tua yet, and they don't want a disrespectful start to their tenure by talking about players without formally getting to know them as people. But again, Jeff Hafley, introduced as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins after 2 years in Green Bay. John Eric Sullivan introduced as the general manager of the Dolphins after over 20 years of service as a member of the Packers. Green Bay lost a lot in those two. But it's the foundation that was set in them, instilled in them by the Packers that gives me confidence that no matter who the next DC is, Jeff Hafley was very complimentary of Matt LaFleur, saying he's a great head coach. He's going to have continued success. John Eric Sullivan said Brian Gutekunst is one of the best at his roles that he has seen. And remember, he was with them on a day-to-day basis. So whoever fills in that VP player of personnel role, whoever fills in at defensive coordinator, you could tell that the impact that the rest of the coaching staff had on those two to ultimately kickstart their careers in higher up roles in Miami. No matter who comes in for the Packers, they'll have those mentors by their side. And it'll only elevate their performance as coaches or as staff members, no matter which two fill those roles. But it was cool to see Hafley and Sullivan get teary-eyed and talk about their time in Green Bay and how thankful they are that they had it. I think Hafley had a cool line toward the end of his expression of thanks after he, talked about how he got really close with all the players on the defensive side of the football and the players in general, that he loves them, wishes them the best, other than when the Dolphins visit Lambeau next year. Because remember, Jeff Hafley, at some point, the Dolphins play the Packers in Lambeau. That'll be a cool homecoming for not just for Hafley, but Sullivan as well. We're going to take a break on WFRV Plus Sports Night. When we come back, we're going to talk Green Bay men's and women's basketball. Their games wrapped up tonight. The women on a heater, the men were, and they're kind of stumbling right now. We'll chat that next on WFRV Plus Sports Night. Back here on the show, Cameron is there with you on this Thursday, day before. From what I'm hearing, the wind chill is going to be, how do I put this? Almost illegal. It doesn't feel like a high temperature of a day can be -8. The low can be -16 or the approximate low. And the wind chill can hover around the -30, 40, or 50 range. I'm a kid from California. I get it, right? Like, I'm never going to be comfortable in this type of weather. But I've talked to enough people in Northeast Wisconsin and in the Midwest in general who tell me firsthand, I've lived here my whole life, I will also never be comfortable with this weather. So I am not the standout in this situation where all of a sudden, oh, this guy, he's the weak one out of the bunch. I don't think anyone likes this temperature. Let's get to Green Bay men's and women's basketball. Luckily, they're inside, so we don't have to deal with those temperatures covering those two teams. Let's start with the women's team. After taking down Oakland 73-59 today, thanks to Maddie Skrupski's team-high 19 points, and gosh, has she been something, that transfer. Just so pivotal in their success. and a perfect replacement for Natalie McNeil. I mean, props to Kayla Karius for her ability to bring in players as quote unquote replacements and not trying to make them better than the previous regime, but trying to put them in advantageous positions so that the team can be better for it with a similar type of play style with the returners and how it all meshes together. The Green Bay women, they're 11-0 in conference. They're 16-5 on the season. Remember, this is the start of the quote-unquote second round of conference play in which they've already seen everyone, and now they're seeing the teams that they had already played. So it becomes tougher. I mean, Karius admitted to it yesterday during the media availability that it's fun, it's a cool challenge, but yeah, right now it becomes harder because teams know what you're going to do. They've already studied the tape, and they don't even need to study the tape. They can just think back to when you last played and make adjustments based off that because you're probably going to attack the team the same. And she told us we can't get complacent. We have to keep trying to find a way. And this is going to sound like a weird roundabout way of saying it, but we have to keep trying to find a way to exploit in ways, guess, or maneuver around what other teams are trying to exploit in which they didn't in the first game. So in a way, you are exploiting the exploitation, right? Other teams are going to want to exploit you in categories in which you dominated the first time around. So you have to find a way to make those adjustments based off what you think they are trying to exploit after seeing you one time. They're going to assume your strengths are this, this, and that. How do you adjust to it? And Green Bay adjusted to it well. They led 21-9 after the first quarter. This team just does not take its foot off the gas. Jenna Geyer, another 10 points. She scored in double figures in 9 straight now. And Carly Duffney had double figures. The inside outlook of Green Bay and how dominant they can be from behind the arc and in the paint, or even both on a game-to-game basis, is what makes them so strong. Think about last year. Maddie Schreiber, a lot like a Christina Wilmette. She can shoot, she can get to the rim. Jasmine Kondrakowicz, a lot like a Jenna Geyer. She can shoot, but most likely she'll dominate in the paint. You add Carly Duffney. You have Megan Schultz playing her best ball. Now you got 3 centers, power forwards that can take over inside. And you have the shifty nature of Maddie Skrupski and others. You got Gracie Gresh, who can post up, she can shoot, she can cut well. This team is very impressive. Not a lot of holes. Long way to go, but right now, not a lot of holes. Dating back to last season, the Phoenix have beaten 31 consecutive conference opponents. That includes both regular season and postseason. Will it ever stop? I think the belief and the hope is that it will not. Okay, Green Bay men's basketball. After winning 4 in a row, they improved 11-8. They were just a game back of first place in the Horizon League. And then Oakland walked into the Crest Center and dog walked the Phoenix. Made it look easy. Just bullied them inside. Took the ball away, pressured them on the perimeter. 20-4 fast break points. Crushed them in the paint, over 50 points in the paint. The offensive rebounding, one of the guys, Taburu, their center, had was 3 for 3 from distance, but also had 7 offensive rebounds. And that's what's going to hurt the Phoenix, is understanding that a lot of the times, if their offense can't go, can their defense? And unfortunately, against Youngstown State tonight, their defense did not go. Not at all. I want to look up the guy's name out of respect. Kyle Malzahn always doing a great job of tweeting out the reason to why Green Bay won or lost. Chris Carroll, Youngstown's senior, 34 points, 8 of 12 from deep. I mean, the Penguins hit 16 threes, Green Bay only 7. That's the problem with the Phoenix. If they can't knock down their threes, a lot of the times, you know how they say offense leads to defense? Their defense kind of shuts off. It did against Oakland. Also did against Youngstown State. And it's those defensive breakdowns that have me thinking about this Green Bay team in a different light. When they were winning a lot of those games, it was because they weren't playing with their food. They weren't playing to the formula of the opposing team. It didn't matter what the other team did. I remember sitting down with Doug Gottlieb. We were even asking him questions and pressers, and it seems like the fabric of Green Bay men's basketball, worrying about yourself. That's who Doug is, right? I don't care what other people think about him. And Green Bay can't either. They have the talent to get it done. They can be a little undersized, but it shouldn't matter. Unfortunately, a majority of their losses this season, a lot of them coming in blowout fashion, is because they get out rebounded. They're not as physical. And if other teams are hitting their shots more than the Phoenix are, they don't even have a chance. And that's exactly what happened against Youngstown State. Now, GB made it a game. I mean, they scored 49 points in the second half after only, 32 in the first, but they allowed 50. They're only down 38-32, and when you score 49 points in the second half, you think, okay, we're good. You give up 50 points in the second half. That's, 2 games in a row, 2 losses in a row in which Green Bay has allowed at least 50 points in the second half. They've allowed 101 combined points their last 2 games in the second half. Classic Green Bay basketball is what they showed in the second half, dropping 49 points. CJ O'Hara had a big game with 22. When other teams are just more efficient offensively, and a lot of the times it's because of those breakdowns defensively by the Phoenix, kind of run into a wall. And that's what GB did. And unfortunately now they're 11-10 on the season, 6-4 in conference, and kind of sliding down. Now the projection wasn't for Green Bay to win the Horizon League. But of course, once you win 4 in a row, the expectation almost becomes that when you're only a game out. And the Horizon League has been very wonky. I mean, Kyle Malzahn tweeted something out a few days ago. Just the Horizon League, be in the Horizon League. Got to find this tweet. I thought it was a great tweet by Kyle. He goes, the Horizon League went full on Horizon League tonight. Cleveland State upset first place Wright State. Then IU Indy, a team that not too good, walked into Oakland's house and bullied them. The same Oakland team that walked into Green Bay's house and did the same. So it's a league that's wide open, but it's wide open for those that can hover. And if Green Bay continues to fall, they can't contend with those teams. And a new formula has to take place, right? Green Bay has to find something different. Don't know what that is going to be, but they have to find something different. Let me check their schedule. I'm fairly sure they have a game this weekend. I think it's actually on the road, though. Just curious who they have next. Yeah, Saturday, not Sunday. At Robert Morris. Be a big one for them before they have back-to-back home games against a good Cleveland State squad and the first place Wright State squad. So a lot on the line over the next week and a half for GB after a not-so-good week for the Phoenix on the men's side, while the women's team just keeps rolling because that's just what they do. They just keep on chugging. Okay, when we come back on WFRV Plus Sports Night, we're going to chat a little more about the DC opening for the Packers, who they interviewed today, who will also interview tomorrow, and which possible defensive coordinator candidate is off the board after he took another job in the South. Okay, we'll talk about it when we come back on the show. Let's do this thing, wrap things up. WFRV Plus Sports Night. Cameron is there with you. Final episode of the week. And maybe by the first episode of next week, we will know who Green Bay's defensive coordinator is. No longer Jeff Hafley 3 days ago taking the Dolphins head coaching job. Then 5 confirmed interviews for the Pack. Al Harris, remember the Packers Hall of Famer, was interviewed a few days ago. Christian Parker, a former defensive quality control coach for Green Bay. I think it was in 2019. he was a candidate. Jonathan Gannon, Arizona's head coach the last 3 years, interviewed in Green Bay today. Will also conduct an interview tomorrow. Don't know why Gannon, who was in Arizona the last 3 years, decided, hey, we're going to do interviews in Titletown. Let's do it when it's in the negatives. But luckily, or I assume so, that they'll be inside in negotiation talks and chatting about if he's the next guy. One name that's now off the list as of today, Christian Parker. I mentioned that defensive quality controls coach for Green Bay a few years back. He accepted the defensive coordinator job in Dallas after he served in the DB room in Philadelphia. So he stays in the NFC East, but Dallas has their guy. So Parker is out of the running. So right now, 4 candidates as we know of, including Jonathan Gannon, who's currently in Green Bay and will conduct 2 interviews in 2 days, which could say a little something about the possibility that he's the next DC. I think a lot are wondering. Matt LaFleur, one of his best friends is Raheem Morris, the former Falcons head coach who was recently fired. He'd be a perfect DC. He's a defensive-minded coach. Matt LaFleur, one of his best friends, so they have some trust between the two. But I'll say this. Only 3 head coaching, now 4, 5? Is it up to 5 now? Head coaching roles have been filled. The Giants with John Harbaugh, the Dolphins with Jeff Hafley, the Titans with Robert Saleh, the new one that just dropped today, the Ravens with Jesse Minter, the Chargers DC who worked in Baltimore and now is back with the Ravens, but worked in Baltimore between 2017 and 2020. So those 4 have been filled. Am I missing any? I don't think I am. No, I don't think I am. So those 4 have been filled. There's 5 left. Or is 6? I think it's 6 left. Got the Raiders, the Cardinals, the Bills. Raiders, Cardinals, Bills, Steelers. That's 4. I know I'm missing a few. And now I'm just stalling, trying to think of the ones. Oh, 5 head coaching roles have been filled. The Falcons with Kevin Stefanski. I feel like I'm missing one more. Either way, there are plenty of head coaching roles out there to be filled. Mike McDaniel just went with an OC job, so he's kind of off the board as someone that could be a head coach. Raheem Morris is really the name outside of Mike Tomlin that's floating around as a guy that was a head coach that was let go and could be of interest to other teams. So I don't think that Morris will just jump in, take that Packers job, not knowing if a head coaching job might still be on the table for him. Remember, he was just a head coach. But he has not been confirmed to have done an interview. Honestly, I feel like the Packers need to do their due diligence before even thinking about Raheem Morris because he would just be a perfect candidate. Like I mentioned, the trust factor with Matt LaFleur and his defensive-minded ability, and he did a really good job with that Atlanta defense at times, but just the head coaching role was not it for him there with that team and all the hoopla that went on with the Falcons, those dirty birds. So I think this Jonathan Gannon dual day interviews definitely has me thinking that that guy might be the Packers DC as early as next week. Again, that's all speculation, but when you think of their other candidates, and Gannon is the only one that has been a head coach and was most recently a head coach. And the fact that he'd be willing to take over for that defense, Matt LaFleur already said why he loved Jeff Hafley is he had already been in his shoes, right? Hafley was a head coach at Boston College. So if he needed to bounce ideas off of Haf, he knew he could trust him because he's been a leader of men before in terms of the entire organization. What has Gannon been? What has Raheem Morris been? But still, you know what I mean. So I feel like I know I have a lot of confidence that Jonathan Gannon is right now on a fast track to being the next Packers DC. Of course, I can't confirm that, but to do 2 interviews in 2 days in the freezing cold, feel like that has some impact. Okay, that'll do it for WFRV Plus Sports Night. Thanks so much for tuning in. Covered a lot. Again, Jeff Halfley, John Eric Sullivan, officially introduced as the Dolphins head coach and general manager. GB women won, GB men lost again. And Jonathan Gannon, back-to-back interviews with the Pack before even scheduling or before even doing the first one. We'll see what happens there, but they're down to 4 candidates that have had confirmed interviews. They could still add more to that list, but that's what we know as of now. I've been Cameron Ezair. We will see you next week.